A couple weeks ago, I made a video going over all the evidence that a circus or a carnival is relevant to the FNaF lore, whether to be where the video games are going in the future or the origins of the series. But after I released that video, I got some comments that informed me about some stuff that I missed. So in this video, I thought it would be a good idea to go over the stuff that I missed and that I just forgot about when making the last video, and talk a bit more about the idea. I strongly recommend watching the other video before this one if you haven't already, but let's just get started. The idea of the carnival being the origins of the series is a theory many people now seem to be believing, but the fact that we're learning all of this around the same time seems to allude to the fact that we may be getting a carnival game for the future of FNaF, whether it takes place in the future or at the beginning of the timeline. Many people point to the fact that Steelwool actually said that they wanted to do a game about the origins of Fazbear Entertainment, which they think would be set around the 1970s, and the fact that the carnival is being hinted at and the fact that the origins of the timeline based on the Fallfest poster and the Freddy cutout from Ruin seem to take place in the 70s, it seems very likely that the Origins game that Steelwool wants to make will end up being the Carnival game. There's also a couple pieces of evidence hinting at the Carnival that I was told about by Ozeglion, that I was told about by this dude in the comments of the last Carnival-based video. I was told that in Ruin, the chase sequence played music in the background that sounds somewhat like Carnival music, and so I went back and checked that chase sequence, and it kinda does, but only vaguely, so that's not the greatest evidence in the world. But I was also told that there was an earlier version of the underground area in Ruin that had dev text that had something along the lines of something cool that maybe foreshadows Carnival. I have heard of people talking about stuff in Ruin off-screen that hinted at the Carnival, but I can't really confirm that this is true, because I don't know that it is. Since other people have talked about it, I assume that it is, but I just placed it towards the beginning of this video because I'm not 100% sure about it. It probably is true, but I don't know. Same with this next point, the FNaF AR photo booth. Because if you don't remember, FNaF AR exists. Clearly everyone's favorite FNaF game did set up a lot of the lore that was to come with Security Breach, including Vanny and Vanessa, and Lewis and Glitch Trap spreading through the Fazbear systems, but it seems it was also ahead of the curve when it comes to the circus. In FNaF AR, there's a photo booth you have to buy, and when you do, you are able to take pictures of the skins you've unlocked. Logan Entertainment in the comments of the last one told me that there's a filter you can add, which are red curtains with a wooden sign that says, "Come one, come all, the Fazbear Circus." I searched high and low on YouTube to try and find this, but I wasn't able to, and you guys know, it's FNaF AR. It's way overpriced. I'm not about to drop at least $25 for FNaF lore when I'm literally never going to use it otherwise. Even back when I did play FNaF AR, I never got the photo booth, and it's going to stay that way. I honestly can't confirm this to be true, but if it is, there you go. Now on to the main pieces of evidence though, the ones that I actually do know are true. Many of these pieces of evidence are ones that a bunch of people said in the comments of the last video, and some are just ones that I forgot about for the last video and then remembered later. In the Silver Eyes, there's a scene where Charlie is looking around in her childhood home, and she notices that Henry had a book about the traveling carnival and the circus. And let's not forget, Henry was one of the two co-founders of Fazbear Entertainment, the other one being William Afton. So this very clearly seems to indicate that Fazbear Entertainment had something to do with the carnival. This is very interesting, especially when you consider that this was written all the way back at the beginning of the series, which means Scott likely had the carnival planned from very early on. Not to, be important now if it is, but just to be, the origins of the series. Back to FNaF AR though, there was actually a pretty cool, although extremely overpriced, mini DLC for the game, and it was called The Dark Circus, compiling some of the previous circus-themed characters like Ballora and Ringmaster Foxy, and also the additional Great Escape Golden Freddy. No, I'm not joking. And giving you some puzzles and minigames to do, and these enemies to face off against. The whole thing is obviously entirely circus-themed, and that's definitely worth noting. Apparently, there's also a circus map in the currently indefinitely delayed Roblox FNaF game, Survival Crew. I didn't play this, but it's obviously true, and other people have played it and reported on it, and it also appears in some videos on the game. In the last circus video, I talked a considerable amount about the Fallfest 1970 circus poster in Help Wanted 2, but I somehow, in my minimum of 8 hours playing Help Wanted 2 for my first playthrough, my stupid ass never noticed that there's another Fallfest poster on the back of the gift arcade machine. I noticed it was there, but I didn't notice the entire time that it was a Fallfest poster, not just a Freddy and Friends poster. How the f did I not notice that? Since the Fallfest now seems to be connected with the Circus or the Carnival, the fact that there's many references to Fallfest in this game is definitely worth noting. This poster has the main three Freddy's performers in their Freddy and Friends forms on a wooden stage in a field, as well as Foxy's Freddy and Friends form in the foreground with his hook in a carved pumpkin, next to the cupcake sitting on a bunch of other pumpkins, and the puppet as a scarecrow in the background. This could be meant to indicate that Fallfest is relevant to the Circus, Fredbear's, and also Freddy's in some way. But in what way it would be relevant to Freddy's, I'm not sure. It could simply be meant to give us another Fallfest reference to get us thinking, or it could be related to the whole thing about Phone Guy saying the Freddy's characters existed for 20 years by FNaF 1, indicating they existed in the 70s around when the carnival happened, which I mentioned in my Fredbear's video from a while ago, and how the costumes that were turned into the Freddy's characters by Edwin, as mentioned in The Mimic, could have simply been used for the carnival in the 70s. Something else that connects heavily to circuses is Security Breach Fury's Rage. Level 2 of Fury's Rage is themed around the circus, with an entire circus in the background, many circus-esque characters in it like Broiler Baby and Clown Springtrap, and a circus poster in the background. What's also interesting is that this map is connected with FNaF 6, showing Scraptrap on the ground. Not only does this level connect with the circus, but it further connects the circus with FNaF 6, which I talked a bit about in the last video. Fury's Rage isn't the only thing that connects to the circus though, as Security Breach also has the Balloon World arcade machine, which is themed around the circus as well, with the balloons we collect and the actual circus that we can see in the background. But not only is Balloon World itself at the circus, but there's also animatronics that seem very closely related with Balloon World, a wave of merch named the Balloon Circus animatronics. Coincidence? Very doubtful. And let's also not forget about Pinwheel Circus and Pinwheel Funhouse from all the way back in FNaF World. And the final piece of evidence that I can think of is something people question the validity of, but I do think it's definitely worth noting. After all the Lady Fizzy drama that I'm not very well versed in, I feel like a lot of people kind of forgot about the art that was revealed a while ago. One of them was this, art of a hallway and a sad boy, which some believed was for a FNaF Origins type game, and many people now instead believe it's based on B7, though honestly I have no idea what it actually is. But there was also this art. This art is of fabric costume designs for the toy animatronics with slightly altered designs. These don't connect with the circus itself, but they do connect back to the idea of what would have been at the circus. I discussed in the last circus video and in that Fredbear's Family Diner theory from a while ago how Fredbear's, before getting Springlock suits, simply used costumes that people would wear, ones that had no electronics of any kind in them. These are the same costumes we see in the Mimic story, which are later turned into animatronics, and also the same ones in the epilogues of Tales and the ones the Mimic wears in those epilogues and in Ruin. They're in the FNaF 6 location because they were at Fredbear's, which was likely the same building as FNaF 6. If there was a location, that being the Carnival, before Fredbear's, it's undeniable that it would also use these costumes, considering they still use these costumes at Fredbear's, and the ones in the Lady Fizzy art seem to match that as well. So therefore, I think the Carnival was the origins of not only the original Freddy's characters, which also explains the 20 years ago comment from FNaF 1, as I mentioned earlier, as the costumes used to make the animatronics existed since the 70s, but also the designs for the toy animatronics would exist, which actually explains why Mangle already exists by the time of FNaF 4, despite the animatronic not actually existing yet, simply being a broken toy based on the costume that the Funtime Foxy design was based on. When I say Funtime Foxy, by the way, I mean the one that turned into Mangle, not the one from Sister Location. Both of them are named Funtime Foxy for some reason, which is weird considering Mangle is a toy animatronic but doesn't have toy in the name for some reason. I don't know why, it's weird. Also, as a side note, this could also explain why Toy Bonnie as a character somehow existed early enough that there was a poster of him on the wall in the first Freddy's location in the Into the Pit trailer, despite Toy Bonnie as an animatronic not existing until 2 years later in FNaF 2. So that's all the evidence, but there's one more thing I want to talk about. Some people have been saying that the daycare attendant could have originated at the carnival, but I don't think so since he is an animatronic and the carnival seems to have not had animatronics at all. But if there were some animatronics at the time, there must have been very few, and one of the ones that could have existed is Carney. On the last video, I got a comment from Big D Dalt, or something like that, I don't know. This comment presented the possibility that Lefty and Carney could actually be the same animatronic. Carney is a redesign of Lefty, having some features Lefty has that Rockstar Freddy doesn't, like a bigger nose, even though the color is a bit more similar to Rockstar Freddy. His model overall, though, is based more on Lefty. Carney would also have been an animatronic at the carnival, but it's possible that since the carnival keeps being connected with fire both in Carousel and Phaser Blast, that the carnival itself could have burned down, rather than only being connected with FNaF 3 and FNaF 6. Carney even had a burnt form after Phaser Blast burned down, on which you could see that his eyes were damaged, but his right eye is actually more damaged than his left eye. It's entirely possible that because it was more damaged, it would have been replaced, while the left eye was less damaged and it would have been kept. Over time, that left eye would decay, and eventually would have ended up either being replaced once again by a completely black eye, or just decaying to the point of being a black eye. Since Carney likely would have been kept at Fredbear's with the other costumes, if FNAF 6 is Fredbear's, Henry could have redesigned and repurposed Carney to capture the puppet and bring it back to the FNAF 6 location. The idea is pretty cool, and it doesn't seem to contradict anything, so it's mostly just an extra piece of story that doesn't alter too much, and just offers a new explanation for something that didn't really need one, but could have easily had one. Who knows though? But that's everything I wanted to talk about in this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye guys!